Thank you so much, Kathy and Nicole. Thank you so much. How beautiful. It's just as powerful now as it was many years ago when they put that song out. Don't you agree? On the first Sunday of this month, we launched a series entitled The Season of Great Expectations. And I can tell by looking at you that you expected some good and you got some good in your life over the past month. Is that so? You've been working the principle, expectation as the anticipation of the possibilities. And we know this truth, that we don't always get what we ask for, but we will get what we expect in life. How many of you got what you expected in life over the past, at least for Christmas? If you didn't, you better start working on your expectations, dear ones. Today, we'll culminate this 4-part series with the message over the next several minutes entitled, Divine Empathy. We've heard a lot about love, but empathy is not a word or a principle that we hear a lot about. And we are called to really give ear to it today because even the word love is used so loosely. It's, there's people who feel that it's quite challenging to love, especially our neighbors as ourselves. And yet, for some, it's so easy to. But we use the word love. We love everything. We love our shoes. We love our clothes. We love our house. We love our car. We love everything. And the word has become so diluted. But as we look at this expression, this principle of empathy, prayerfully it will help us to understand love better. To help us with this, and I looked for a Hawaiian proverb that would best fit for today's idea. And from Hawaiian proverbs and poetical sayings, we have this affirmation, this proverb. Now, I've yet to master this in 3 services, so I'm going to let you affirm it in Hawaiian. So let's hear it. Come on. Okay, some of you, your mouth, you were ventriloquists, you. So let's try it once again. Let's hear it. Very good. Oh, you did well. Which translates, love is like a cleansing dew. The cleansing power of aloha can soothe and can heal. Hurt, pain, and suffering yield to aloha's healing power. How many of you have experienced that? Yes, this is so real here. As we consider All People's Day and this idea of divine empathy, we're drawn to the words of one of the great teachers of the unity movement. Although she was not a unitic per se, she was not a member of the unity movement, but her teachings back in the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s, were so profound that the co-founders of this movement, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, felt that they aligned so much with their own theology and philosophy. And they invited Dr. Emily Cady, asked if it's okay to use her writings as the core text to help individuals coming into these teachings to get a foundation of what the metaphysics, esoteric, spiritual teachings of unity are. And Dr. Cady reminds us that as we consider the All People's Day, that God is one life. God is the one life, one love, one spirit, one mind, one basis, one principle, one being expressing in different degrees of manifestations. And to echo the words of in Revelations, it says that the leaves on the tree are for the healing of the nations. Meaning that the leaves, if you observe a tree, you will notice that there's no 2 leaves that are identical. Each leaf is unique. It stands alone. It may appear to be like all of the other leaves, but it's unique in and of itself. And the uniqueness and the difference of each leaf makes the tree so beautiful. And so it is with humanity. That each one of us, in all of our different shapes, shades, sizes, our different preferences, our differences, we all reflect the majesty, the magnificence of the one presence and the one power. Paul echoed these words, and we understand Paul represents the spoken word of truth in his writings in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and 13. He says, for in one spirit, we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, male or female, and all were made to drink from the same Spirit. It's the one Spirit. In essence, that we are all the same, even in our differences. So we can be our unique, individualized, unrepeatable expression of God and not try to be like, isn't it great just to be you today? Or I am so glad that I am Jack Bomar. I would not want to be anybody else today, and that's not being egotistical, but I have come to a place of acceptance for myself. What would the world be like if everyone in the world was just like you? If everyone thought the way you thought? If everyone spoke the way, if everyone dealt with things the same way you process things, if everyone had the same routine that you have, if everyone thought about life and approached life the same way you approach, what kind of world would this world be? Come on, be honest. And you see, you got to really be honest with yourself to respond to that question. You know, in the great schools, mystery schools of Egypt, right above the school, they had the slogan, know thyself. You got to be honest with yourself. You know the part of you, the real you, in your home when you're alone and nobody else is there. So if everybody in the world was just like you, really, what would this world be like today? Well, I'm so glad that you're not like me. If you were like me, you've been late to church this morning. After Saturday, I had all of I have two phones. One phone, I don't know what happened. It just doesn't ring. It doesn't sound. Nothing happens to that phone. That used to be my alarm clock. Then I have this other phone, and I start my Sunday mornings at 4:06 every morning. You can bet your bottom dollar. I'm so consistent when it comes to getting up on Sunday morning. 4:06, and then every 10 to 12 minutes, I have 4:06, 4:15, 4:22, 4:30, 4:45, 5:06, 5:15, 5:25, 25, 5:30. You see, the closer I get to coming to church, I need to make sure that I am awake. And just in case I miss the first alarm, I will have about 20 other alarms that will go off. But this morning, nothing happened. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I jumped up. I'm like, oh my goodness, I just felt that the alarm went off and I didn't hear it. It was 6:25 a.m. I'm like, my goodness. Now, I don't know about you, but you see, to thy own self be true, to know thyself. For me, I get up at 4:06. I have my process to get here. You see, it takes some time. I have a makeover every day, I promise you. And you should thank God that I make myself over every day. And a couple of you might know. Every day. And thank God right now for Pro hair gel. I thank you. Whoever, it was an idea right from the mind of God. See, if I had stepped in here this morning the way I got up this morning, all of you probably would have run out of this church. I did not want to frighten you. So this morning I got up and I needed to make myself over before getting here. And some of you see, you're like Sleeping Beauty. You go to bed looking beautiful and you wake up just as beautiful. All of us are not blessed like that. Be honest. Come on. Who else have makeovers every morning? Tell the truth and stay in truth. You know you make yourself over every morning. If I was to come knock on your door as soon as you get up, what would I see? Now, all of this is relevant. It's all relevant, I promise you. You see, if everybody in the world processed and had to engage, embrace life, and move through life the way we did, it would make for a very probably interesting, to say the least, experience. As we consider this idea of divine empathy, we understand that there is a call for empathy, friends. And I'm not even talking about love right now. I'm talking about empathy. And let's look at what that really means to be empathic. Yeah, this year, 2015, has been an extraordinary year. It's been a year of great achievements and great accomplishments. In fact, there's been some amazing things to happen this year, and I just want to run down the line, just to name a few of them, if that's okay. And if it's not okay, I'm still going to do it. Like the plane that flew around the world only powered by the sun. How many of you heard that happened this year? It only happened in 2015. Or that bus that set a record speed powered only by poop. Did you hear about that? It happened this year in 2015. Did you hear about the foldable electric bike? This year, only in 2015. Even now, there are sneakers that will allow you to express yourself using your smartphone. How many of you got that for your Christmas gift? So you didn't even know it existed. Now that we are aware, we can draw it to us. Come on, work with the awareness. Awareness is the key. You can actually change the image on your sneakers using your smartphone. It did not happen until this year, 2015. And now, jetpacks are a reality. You can actually put the jetpack on your back and zoom off into the sky. That exists now in 2015. I'm telling you, this was an amazing year. And it's not over yet. It's not over. And we are closer now than ever before to flying cars. Have you seen those images? This year it came out. They have fitting rooms. You don't even have to change your clothes. You can stand in this interactive mirror and change your clothes without even taking off anything or messing up your hair or any of that. For surfers, this year, you can now surf without waves on the electric surfboard, but that's not fun for us here in Hawaii. This year, the 3D printer came out that prints everything from bridges to candy to even cars. And now they have a vending machine that you can press the button to get the car that you want. It happened this year. Amazing things. The scientists invented shade balls to conserve water during droughts. This year it happened. And thirsty concrete they developed to protect drivers during floods. This year it happened. Doctors created revolutionary trauma foam that saves lives. It happened this year, and they even returned feelings to a paralyzed man's leg this year. NASA found water on Mars this year, supposedly, and they also found a planet so similar to ours that they call it Earth 2 this year. And Tesla introduced a giant battery that can power your whole house this year. All of these amazing things happened this year. And we can all rejoice over those things. Yet there are some things that call us to be empathic. Like according to the Boston Consulting Group, there are more than 17 million millionaires in the world this year. That's something we should think, if you want that as your experience, you should celebrate that. I know we have a few of those 17 million in this congregation. Yet, of the 17 million millionaires, it says 60% of the people live on just 6% of the world's income. That's 2015. According to recent data by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations, it says more than 836 million people in our world live in extreme poverty, 2015. Nearly 1 billion people have no access to safe drinking water, 2015. It says 2.4 billion people practice open defecation because they lack access to sanitation facilities, 2015. Today, more people have a mobile phone than a toilet, 2015. The World Economic Forum announced earlier this year that the water crisis is the number one risk based on impact to our society this year. According to UNESCO, Institute for Statistics, more than 120 million children and young adults between the ages of 6 and 15 have either never attended school or they dropped out this year. Hundreds of thousands of our children serve as child soldiers this year. And researchers estimate that 21 to 36 million people are currently being held captive as sex slaves, child slaves, and other form of bondage labor this year, generating $150 billion each year illicit profits for traffickers. There's a call for empathy. And as we look at this term, prayerfully it will help us. And when we become empathic, we can help change some things. How many of you knew all of those statistics? How many of you heard it for the first time? In our teachings, awareness is the key to freedom and to change. Paul says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. And when we are transformed in our mind, we can help transform the world. Empathy is something that we're all born with, whether we know it or not. In the last 20 years, neuroscientists have discovered that each of us are born with something called mirror neurons, which actually program us to vicariously care about the other person's experience around us. So there's a natural part of us that just cares about what's happening. I really care. It's not just on the surface level. I really care what happens to you. It's innate. It's ingrained in me. It's a part of my DNA. Empathy, as we look at a few definitions, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It is the capacity to understand what another person is experiencing from within the person's frame of reference. Here's a term that I offer, and this is a context that I invite you to leave with. Empathy is the righteous struggle to try and understand what it is like to stand in another person's shoes. Try the righteous attempt to try and understand what it's like to feel what another person is feeling. Just like I've shared this in other two services. Those of you if you've heard it, just act like you're hearing it for the first time. As I was on the plane coming from Sacramento a couple of weeks ago, and there on the plane, there's something happens. It never fails. When we're on, the moment they close the doors and we're on the runway, and we're jetting off or taking off. When the plane starts to go up, I go out. It's like they turn out the lights. I don't know what happened, but my body totally shuts down. When I go back, I go out. And as we were jetting off, and I don't know how long it was. All I know is it was wonderful sleep. It was just such peaceful. It's so peaceful and so just wonderful. And all of a sudden, there was this loud screeching sound, like wah! And all over the plane, this baby was crying, and it just filled the whole plane with the sound. And some of you know what that's like. I know, I'm looking at your face. You have such empathy right now. And it just cried, and I got up, and for about 35 to 45 minutes, the baby cried. And there you could look over and you saw this mother. She was doing the best she could. She was trying in every way that she knew how to quiet this little child, this new expression of life. And to all of her attempts, it just seemingly failed. And to know, with no prevailing, she just couldn't get this baby silent. And you could see the people around her, some of the parents who who really, you cannot forget from whence you've come, lest we repeat that process again. And you can look and tell some of the parents who've experienced that, and they look with such empathy, and they say, oh, bless her, bless her. And then there were others who were like, I wish you could shut that baby up. Can you please quiet that baby, silence that baby, please feed the baby. And there in that moment, I began to, we're all connected, and I began to speak to the soul of that infant. And I'm like, I can truly understand. You got all of this pressure on your ears. You're new. I feel the pressure on my ears. I chew gum during the whole flight just to keep my ears open. I'm like, I can only imagine what that's like for you, experiencing this maybe for the first time. And I began to speak to the angel of that child and the angel of the parent. I spoke to my angel to give comfort and blessings and to bless that mother who probably felt, embarrassed or whatever. And I blessed her. And it didn't happen right away, but it wasn't long after, though, the baby just got quiet. Now, I didn't have to know that person's story. I didn't have to know the lady's story. I didn't know if she was a single parent, if she was married, if she was caring for the child, if it was her child. I didn't know if she was financially strapped, if she was financially secure. I didn't know if she was employed or looking for employment. I didn't even know if she was flying home or going to visit a loved one, a family who might have transitioned. I didn't know her story, and you know what? It did not matter. It didn't matter what her story was. It did not stop us from being empathic and extending some empathy. Empathy is the foundation of love. If you can get empathy, if we can get empathy, that effort to simply attempt to try and understand, to be understanding, if we can become empathic, then love gets easy. Empathy paves the way for love. it creates the pathway for that train to come through. You know the train. I'm not talking about Alethea train either. Empathy will open the way for the train to come through. And it's that train that was talked about. You know the train. That train that came out back in it came through in 1972. I think Kenny Gamble wrote about this train. And this group of fellas got together and says, well, we're going to pave the way for this train to come through. Empathy makes the way for the train. You know the train. How many of you know the train? Huh? If you know it, stand up and act like it. The love train. People all over the world, join hands. The love train, love train. People all over the world, join hands. Start a love train, love train. The next song that we make will be England. Tell all the people in Russia and Germany too. Don't you know that it's time to get on board and let this train keep on riding, riding on through. If you know it, come on, get on the love. People all over the world, join hands, start a love train. You got it. People all over the world, get on board. Join hands. It will carry you to empathy and keep you sustained in the days to come. God bless you.